I'm Jennifer Baird, currently in England in my studio apartment. I spent over 30 years living in Trinidad and Tobago, and much of that time as a recluse in the rainforest, and that's been very influential to my art. But I actually grew up in England in an artistic family, so I was encouraged to paint from very early childhood. And I grew up in beautiful nature too, so being in wild nature on my own has always been a very key part of my art. As a child, I read many stories on the Greek and Norse and Celtic legends, and Indian and African stories. And as a teenager, became very interested in philosophy and Eastern religions, all forms of mysticism, quantum physics, cosmology, exotic cultures. And as a teenager, 17-year-old, I became a practicing Buddhist, and so Tibetan iconography and Tibetan scripts were absorbed into my work. In fact, everything from early childhood to now that's inspired me, that has fired my spirit, my curiosity, my intellect, that has drawn me to the numinous and transcendental, all of that gets woven into my art and ends up in a painting. So when I came across integral theory, actually when I was staying at a Dzogchen community in Venezuela, and somebody lent me brief history, then integral became very influential on my art too. And the way that it's done that is by giving a kind of a meta-coherence to my work, and extra layers and levels of language and articulation, which has been very helpful and continues to be helpful. I got involved in the integral art movement about 10 years ago, being part of the online gallery that Michael Swartz curated, and also the first international integral art exhibition in San Francisco. And the integral artists I've met through that, and also online and at the IEC art exhibitions too. A great tribe of very talented artists. I have to say that I hope one day we'll be able to get the funding to have a big international art exhibition of integral art with hundreds of paintings at a really top gallery or museum. So the work for this exhibition that I've done has taken me almost a year. The paintings are on beautiful birchwood panel and of varying sizes. Some are abstract, some have symbolic meaning but set within a kind of mystical, transcendental landscape. Some have beings in who are elementals of stone and wood, tree and earth. There are a couple of paintings who have very radical beings in who are calling for radical freedom and transformation. The techniques I use in these paintings have taken me years to develop, and I've realised are almost as important as the content and the meaning and the intention in the painting, because it gives a way to fully articulate what I want to put into the work, so that I can get the final painting to speak or even sing in the way that I want it to alchemically transmit a particular vibe to the viewer. So I use many layering techniques. Sometimes they take weeks to build up. Acrylics on the underneath because they dry quickly, and oils on top. And this adds a great depth and sensuality to the work. I'd like to say a big thank you here to all the luminaries of the integral world who really do truly and fully understand the importance of art in human evolution and culture, particularly in the era that we're in now, that art and philosophy go hand in hand at the leading edge to transform human understanding of itself and the world and reality. So a big thank you to Ken Wilbur, who's a great lover of art, to Ben Saganti, who's been very supportive in bringing art to the Integral European conferences, to Sean Esbjorn Hagens, to Michael Swartz, who's our leading expert on integral art, to Bruce Alderman, And of course to all the integral artists, and may we go from strength to strength. And please everyone, enjoy this exhibition. Thank you.
Welcome to the Integral Lens digital exhibit by Pygmalion Karatsas and me, Mark Decay. I'm here in Knoxville in the USA, and Pygmalion is sheltering in place in Patras, Greece. We had originally planned this exhibit to accompany our academic paper that we presented at the IEC conference back in 2018. That exhibit fell through, so we planned an expanded one for the 2020 conference, and now here we are online. So we're offering this digital exhibit in the form of a series of videos. The exhibit covers multiple perspectives on architectural photography. We use the model of Ken Wilber, and there's 5 parts. Part 1 we call Place as a Process. It uses time-lapse and hyperlapse photography alternating with long exposure artistic still images of the same urban waterscapes in cities and landscapes throughout the US. All the shots Pygmalion took with a full-frame Nikon rather than with video. And this work changes one's perception on time, both by speeding up minutes into seconds and alternately by capturing its composite effects in some very long exposures, in which moving and static elements are distinguished in a single image. Part 2 we call Integral Photography. It applies Ken Wilber's integral model to understanding the varieties of architectural photography, and we use the classic frames of quadrants, that is fundamental perspectives, levels of complexity as world views, and editorial and documentary and expressive are the 3 ways that we distinguish types in architectural photography. Part 3 we call Through the Integral Lens, and it presents photographic series, 3 series from Pygmalion's Integral Lens Fulbright project, where he spent 5 months in the US. And I worked with him as his sponsor on that project, and the University of Tennessee was the host. And he has 3 series, one called Nortigo, which means north and vertigo combined, And those are abstractions from contemporary design, most often looking straight up in ways that shift our perspective and our sense of the horizon and depth. Boomeritis is a series of artistic, long exposure portraits of buildings that fuse the boundaries between the representational and the expressionistic in the image. Aqual Views is a series of urban, blurred waterscapes and moving skies that meet building silhouettes in a merging dance between the perceptual and the ephemeral. And part 4 we call the feeling of form. Part 4 represents some new theoretical work from a book that I'm working on with my co-author Gail Brager. It's underway now. The book is called The Feeling of Form. And the basis of that is something we call experiential design schemas, which are beautifully illustrated by the photographic work of Pygmalion Karatsas from around the world. And these schemas are intended to be generative idea patterns for how designers create conditions by reshaping the natural forces around the architecture in ways that engender possibilities, fields of possibilities for rich human experiences of nature. And finally, part 5 we call Teaching the View Through the Integral Lens. And it presents results from a co-taught course that we called Capturing the Human Experience in Place, Architectural and Landscape Photography in Greece. We took college students from the University of Tennessee in a course that was co-led by Pygmalion, myself, and Suzanne Bennett during May of 2019. And we shot in Athens and Santorini, in Crete, and all around the Peloponnese. This part opens with a montage by student Delaney Phillips and is followed by many student images, and finishes with a section that we call Behind the Scenes. And that presents a sense of travel and the intersubjective, perhaps lower left, aspect of the culture of the class. Pygmalion and I hope that you enjoy the multiple views through the integral lens.
Hello, I am Gaia Orion. Hello, Integral friends. I want to use the opportunity of this video to share with you why I think it's important to show my art in the context of integral. Since I started my career about 15 years ago, one of the most important things for me was to find who was my family in the world. And I have to say that when I found integral, it felt like it was like everything that I was doing in my life and was put into this beautiful, comprehensive, holistic map of how I've been growing and waking up. So then seeing my art through the lens of integral helps me understand better who I am as an artist in the historical context. And so what's my role as an artist? And I think when you see my art, it's I feel from the ground and the foundation and everything that I'm working at before I get to the easel with my paintbrushes, which is living in nature, being careful of how I treat my body, my mind, my spirit, bringing all those tools of even communication with the people I love and who are around me, and all of that. When I'm ready, I'm being called onto the canvas with those images that emerge always in a spontaneous manner. I feel that this deep work that it is to grow up and wake up is, I hope, and I know it is, transmitted from my painting into the viewer. So when the viewer happens to be at a certain level of understanding and wider perspective on life, on the world, on how you take care of your own life. When we meet that, I think there's something really, really special, because a lot of people at all kind of level of development will connect with my art, and will find that I can see those like micro transformations happening through the stories that are woven into my work. I think as an artist, the most gratifying, the biggest gift that I have received from putting my artwork out there for everyone to see has been those connections, the people that just really get who I am, not because we've met, but just because they see my work, and I can feel the resonance, the richness of the connection and of those relationships has been absolutely incredible. Being part of the Integral European Conference, thanks to Bense for organizing that, has been like not a huge part of my life, but it's been actually quite important, even in meeting my colleague artists and fostering those conversations and helping me grow and understand what's in my work in a deeper manner, in a way that makes us evolve, makes me evolve, because I feel like my art is ahead of myself, taking me to greater way of being. But it's also, I see like all the artists from the integral movement, you can feel that they have a lot of integration in their life, but they're also like through their art taking humanity to the next step. It's like we're at the edge of the new now. And so I really want to thank you for viewing this new 3D experience that we've put together for you. Please reach out, connect, and much gratitude to all of you.
Hello, my name is Bryony Benj Abbott. I'm a
Hello and welcome to the exhibition. My name is Martina Höss and I'm living and working in Vienna, the capital town of Austria. I'm using a multi-layered oil painting technique because my passion is to play with different layers of colors above each other to create an energetic resonance in between them. This is also the reason why I like to call myself color alchemist. With that technique, I bring more vibrancy and more depth to my paintings, and also surprisingly the fact that the colors can change or move on them or even disappear when you look at it in a certain way. It takes me several months to finish a painting. And my mission is to express my inward waking reality of my formless self, What I mean with that is not a dreamland or a subconscious vision, but I paint the light of consciousness, which I can reach by turning consciousness back towards itself. To embody this is also called non-dual consciousness, because it is such a total experience of subjectivity and oneness. I would also like to inspire you to go in kind of a practical exercise with my paintings. Please choose one of the square paintings with a light in the middle or a ball and sit in front of it and anchor your eyes in the center of the painting until you feel ready to bring your awareness into yourself and relax in yourself, center yourself inside your own energy body. In that way, much deeper meeting and communication with the artwork can start. Your aim should be to meet yourself while looking at the painting. And then you can watch and see how the painting is changing and what is your reflection with it. Try it out, and if you would like to experience more of my art, please visit my website. It is in German, but you will find a lot of more paintings on which you can dwell there. So I hope to meet you maybe in reality next year, and thank you. Goodbye.
Hi, my name is Jo Gosling from Devon in the UK, and I'd like to offer you a warm welcome as I share my work with you. I work in tapestry weaving using various fibres including metals, and since beginning my MA in Fine Art at Plymouth College of Art, I've also been experimenting with glass. Creating art is essential to my life and arises from a contemplative space within. I'm a mindfulness teacher, and I experience the process of weaving as a wonderful form of meditation, being with the senses, as well as a deep act of self-compassion. The grid formed by the vertical warp and the horizontal weft generate a sense of rhythm and order from the often chaotic experience of life. Working from this meditative space, I leave behind the doing mind and work intuitively, with my heart and hands. The central theme in my tapestry is threads catching light. I introduce wires or copper strips with other metallic threads into the weaving, sometimes as part of the weft, and at other times as punctuation throughout the piece. In some pieces, these sparkling metal threads symbolise the beauty which emerges from those wounded places in ourselves when they're broken open, when we have the courage to tenderly embrace our wounds. This is inspired by the Japanese art of Kimsugi, where the artist uses precious metals to repair broken ceramics. Gluing the broken pieces back together with gold enhances the sense of beautiful whole and its fragility. Blessé, the title of one of my pieces, is French for wounded, but also refers in English to blessed. Embracing our human frailty means finding a way of being with our imperfections, so I allow space for wabi-sabi, another poignant Japanese aesthetic. The honouring of impermanence and imperfection, a vital part of our humanity. I wish for my work to touch the tender space in the viewer, where we hold ourselves and others in loving awareness. In other pieces, threads catching the light represent the inspired states that we can experience through meditative practices, which can feel like bolts from the blue, a lightning electrical flow. So in closing, I don't set out with some abstract idea to create integral art. I create weavings which express my personal journey of healing, with a hope that they will touch the hearts of people who see them. And that leads naturally to tapestries which express an integral view of our human quest for wholeness. A wholeness on many levels: body, heart, mind, soul and spirit. And a wholeness which includes this compassionate embrace of our woundedness and imperfection. If you'd like to see more of my work or contact me, please visit my website, jogoslingfiberart.com. Thanks for listening.
Hey there, my name's Corey Devos, and some of you might recognize me from my work over at integrallife.com. I've been working with Ken Wilber and with Integral Life for over 17 years now, and I've got to say it's been a total magic carpet ride. I'm deeply grateful for the opportunity to do the work that I do, and I hope that this work has been at least somewhat meaningful to integral folks like yourself. I've always approached my work as an artist, whether it's writing copy for our content releases or designing images for our publications, or even building the website itself. All of this comes from a deep and relentless urge in my heart to exercise my creativity every day and to help nurture a space where beauty and goodness can freely emerge. In recent years, much of my creativity has been focused around my woodworking. It's become an all-consuming passion for me. And over the last year or so, I've created a number of custom-designed carvings that try to bring integral ideas and iconography out of the abstract and into solid material form. You can actually see a couple of these pieces behind me right now. I'm including examples of two of my favorite carving series for this exhibition. The first is called the Fourth Turning Dharma Wheel, which is inspired by Ken Wilber's Fourth Turning of Buddhism teaching. It represents the expansion of Buddhist thought and practice, incorporating the widest possible scope of human activity, from psychology, spirituality, evolution, science, technology, economics and governance, art and culture, family and community. The original piece was made as a gift to Ken Wilber, and I've commissioned a couple other versions to some other people as well. The second series is a series of 4-quadrant carvings, which are made from a number of different exotic woods that are uniquely tailored to the tastes and interests of each individual patron who commissions a piece. These have been by far my most popular pieces, and they come in a very wide range of styles and details. A great deal of my work is being done with a CNC machine, which is basically a big dumb robot router that does exactly what I tell it to, for better or for worse. This machine represents a confluence of so many of my accumulated skills and interests, and represents to me a seamless integration of agrarian, industrial, and informational technologies. This is why I named my studio Vision Logix Woodworks, because my process brings together both hemispheres of art and engineering, of symbolism and science, of semiotics and robotics. My goal is essentially to take these many illustrations and diagrams that have generated so much meaning for us over the years, and to really try to make them as beautiful as I possibly can, and then to give people an opportunity to bring a unique piece of integral art into their homes. I use a wide variety of rare, exotic, and ethically sourced woods in my art. And working with these different materials has dramatically deepened my appreciation for wood itself. Trees are one of the most fascinating and fundamental organisms on this planet. Every unique tree has a unique story, and that story is literally encoded into the physical structure of the tree itself. We can see it in the grain, we can see it in the rings and in the flesh of the wood. Every year, the tree's growth and struggles and successes are documented, each new cycle transcending and including the last. And when we cut into a fallen tree, we're actually cutting into that story from a particular perspective. And when we do, we see a unique thumbprint, a cross-section of that tree's life and history. All of those knots, all of those patterns and the colors, they're communicating to us in a language we can't possibly understand, but whose beauty and wisdom we can still admire. So I hope that you enjoy some of the works that I've shared in this exhibition. And if you'd like to commission a piece of your own, I totally invite you to do so. just shoot me an email at corey@integrallife.com. That's COREY @integrallife.com. You got to remember that E, or I won't get your email. I really hope to hear from you. And in the meantime, just thank you for taking a few minutes to watch me talk about my art. Hey there, my name's
Hello and welcome to the exhibition. My name is Martina.
Tasanu Ratovu Satse Nama Aganotu Fara Gasara Lanu Toganara Mao Ratugana Samatsenu Tumagaha Hey tu pala Apana Senu Hana Pau Hausu Horatuanu Falenu Taura Katua Lao Fana Hainu Hata Reinu Sa
Hi, my name is Annalisa Berg. I'm currently living in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the United States. I'm the creator of the Alphabet of Vibration, the Keys of Genesis. This is 24 symbols, you can see some of them behind me, that are Hebrew letters mixed with spiritual symbols from many traditions, and they're in mandala form. In the 1990s, after years of being a cross-cultural consultant, moving people from one culture to another, I went back to school for a master's degree in transpersonal psychology. That's when I first heard about Ken Wilber's work and spiral dynamics. The spectrum of consciousness, which I really loved, informed me at that time, and both that and spiral dynamics have continued to inform me, and they do inform the work as well. I also, in that transpersonal psych degree, learned about using creativity and shamanistic practices to really become the best we can be as a possible human. After my divorce, I looked out at the ocean and I said, "What's next?" And I clearly heard in my ear, "You'll go to the Hebrew texts and paint." Well, that was kind of a surprise, but I listened after a while, after rejecting that idea, because I didn't want to do that, but I realized I was being asked to spend 21 days in silence, put my books and my paints around me and see what happens. So I entered into a space of unknown for sure, not knowing what was going to occur. And it is these 24 images that were the result of that, 21 days and another 9 days, months later. What I've come to learn is that the Hebrew alphabet is much more than just letters. I come from a long line of Kabbalists, Jewish mystics, and for many years I knew they were tapping on my shoulder to say, "Come on, there's more for you to learn and to share and to create." So I've been learning since creating these, and I use them in workshops with people and all different modalities with products that I've created, a coloring book and cards and the paintings themselves, so that people can find their own intuitive messages from them. And I find that it's really heartening to see how much they do support people in these times, to bring more light, to bring more messages, to bring more inner wisdom. So I invite you to do the same. I also want to share a quick story that when Moses broke the tablets, they say, the letters flew off and the 23rd letter returned. And when it comes back, when the 23rd letter does come back, it will bring peace. Some say it's the feminine energy, some say it's the Messiah. Well, I want peace, and these are about peace. So you will find the 23rd letter is one of my images that came to me very, very strongly in a dream, and that's also included in my series. So I hope you enjoy them, and I look forward to meeting you sometime soon. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lewis Parsons. I'm an artist based in the UK and I create something known as a soulscape. After creating soulscapes for 15 years or so, I started to ask the question, what would the world's soulscape look like? And I then came across Ken Wilber's work and integral theory and became fascinated by the levels of development that he articulates. And then actually got to meet Ken face to face in 2015, I think it was. There we went through each of the stages, right from the beginning of everything through to where we are now, through to possible future stages of our human evolution and growth. Around 20 or so years ago, I had a really powerful dream, more like a vision, where I saw the planet coated in this thick vegetation, and I saw a fire driving back this vegetation. And it was like I could zoom out and move around the earth, and I could see a fire on the other side of the planet, and each of these fires were burning back these black bulrushes that looked like vegetation. And the more I looked, the more I could see that fire represents our creativity, our collective creativity, driving back the mediocrity of the time. But underneath the surface, what I could see was this incredible mosaic of colour. And that mosaic has come to represent to me people who are willing and able to take on one another's perspective and hold that perspective in a series of creative tensions. And that for me was best expressed in the human story. One of the things I've done is take the 4-quadrant model and rotate it so we have the I and the we at the bottom, which form these root structures, these ineffable, intangible root structures that are so real, you know, the roots of culture and values, which then push up the collective branches, if you like, the trees of the system, which we're currently seeing collapse all around us. The reason I created the human story was really so we could have both a window and a mirror, a language with which to explore our levels of development, to have a power conversation which is abstracted. So you could look at the third painting in a series and say, well, what is my relationship to power? What is your relationship to power? And we could look at the amber level of development and say, well, what's my relationship with values, with tradition? So I'd invite you to look at each of the paintings. Just take 60 seconds in silence to look at each one. Maybe notice what comes up in your body, in your thoughts and your feelings. Maybe even journal them, write them down, share them with someone else. And use these as a tool to share what our new world could look like. One that fully integrates and honors each of the levels and aspects of our own being and our collective we spaces and intersubjective spaces in the best way that we possibly can at a time when we need to explore this more than ever. You're very welcome to contact me directly. My email address is here. There are limited edition prints available of each of the artworks, and there's nothing more satisfying than knowing that something you've created is going some way to lighting up a corner of someone's awareness in a part of the world. I'm also currently running free virtual soulscaping workshops where you can create your own soulscape and contribute to the global hope mosaic. I'm really thankful to be part of this community. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bryony Benj Abbott. I'm a visual artist from the United Kingdom, and right now I'm based in a very rural part of England called Kent, in a tiny village called Woodchurch. My practice is painting. I largely work with oil paints, increasingly working on oversized canvas, and I've been working in the public realm as well, producing public murals. All of my work's really inspired by the natural world, particularly the botanical world, and increasingly I've been becoming interested in our connection to the natural world and the concept of interconnectedness, mapping that in terms of the ecology, in terms of botany, science, but also spiritually. And spatially, just thinking a lot about our access to nature, particularly now during this lockdown. I get a lot of my inspiration from being in nature, so I'm really lucky right now to be in a space where I can actually walk in the ancient woodlands of Kent. They're just on my doorstep, which is just extraordinary. So I get a lot of my inspiration from being immersed in nature, whether it's in England, whether it's in Ireland, in the continent. The Greek landscape really inspires me, as does the Caribbean. My heritage is, I'm half British, half Trinidadian. So there's something about going into the landscape and really thinking about my ancestry, the people who walked the paths before me. And I think that's where the integral theory really comes in, and is into, you know, the kind of things that I'm noting down whilst I'm walking in the landscape. So I'm really thinking about my own personal emotions, my own personal kind of memory traces that these landscapes hold. And then I'm also thinking about the land itself, you know, the ground, the trees, the plants, the ecology, and really kind of zooming in to look at the kind of the texture, the structure, the detail of the plants around me. I've been really inspired by my work at the Francis Crick Institute, a biomedical research institute in London. I manage the exhibitions program there, and working with scientists who work on a molecular and cellular level, and just the technology that they're using to look at the human body that's just invisible to the naked eye has really inspired me to zoom in and look more closely at the natural landscape. So I'm doing that too. And then I'm also thinking about the cultural symbolism of these plants, the cultural kind of events or kind of traditions that are attached to these landscapes. Very much kind of interested in shared values and meanings, and thinking a lot about, or I've been doing a lot of research into kind of the folklores and the myths and legends that have been told about these places, and that's been really rich source of inspiration for me. And then kind of zooming out to the interconnectedness concept. So how do we all fit in? How do I fit in? How do we all fit into this broader landscape? And then I do paint and I do draw quite often when I'm traveling, but I'll bring those sketchbooks and those notes back into the studio, and that's where I start the actual paintings themselves. And the process for me is really quite it's quite a long process. Each painting can take months, and that's partly enforced by the materials, because I work with oils and I paint in layers, so I have to wait for each layer to dry before I can carry on. So that's kind of enforced a period of reflection, and that's a time when I also continue my research, you know, kind of desk space, really, more reading, more hunting for imagery, icon, symbolism, to kind of really build a kind of a fuller sense of the experience or the sensation or knowledge that I'm exploring, trying to capture, trying to share. And increasingly, you know, my work is becoming more multimedia, as I said, so I'm enjoying kind of interweaving textiles and the drawn line, found imagery, a lot of kind of building up layers using kind of resin as well as oils, so that there's kind of, the paintings becoming more kind of three-dimensional, and it's a kind of a real collection, and that's a new body of work that I'm kind of in the middle of right now. So yeah, so this is my work. Thank you very much for listening and for inviting me to join this exhibition, and I hope you all have a fantastic conference.